Getting into boutique hotels is a big shit. And when I'm talking to people about how they can make the transition from what I would call the hobbyist STR investor to a boutique hotel investor, I get a lot of questions about how they take their experience and translate it into skills that will benefit them at the next level. And there's a couple key pieces that we'll dig into as the framework of this video. And if you can execute within these key areas, then you can absolutely get into boutique hotels and bridge that gap into the commercial space where the deals and profits are a lot bigger and more lucrative. There's so much I wish I would have known before I got started, so to help you guys get off to a faster start and avoid some of the common mistakes, I'm going to shed some light from my experience of buying 6 hotels on the things that will benefit you to think about and plan for getting into the boutique hotel space. In this video, I want to share the way I think about these 3 biggest areas that I think have the most impact on boutique hotel investing and what I look for so that you can apply them in your way in your own setting. One of the first things to really consider is where to buy a boutique hotel. Now, I mentioned in an earlier video that boutique hotels essentially work anywhere that a short-term rental works. Though I would be careful of buying boutique hotels in rural markets because vacancy can be your silent killer. If you're out in the boonies away from a population center or an area that has really low travel demand, you're gonna have a tough time filling up your hotel rooms almost no matter how nice they are. Whereas a house out in the middle of nowhere can be a destination itself because you only have one unit, so it's much easier to find a guest to book it. But when you have a lot of rooms, it's hard to appeal to enough people to fill up all your rooms. Now, there are 2 market factors I consider with every market that I look at, and one is population growth. First of all, I want to invest in areas that are growing with people moving into the area, because more people coming into the area is going to lead to new businesses coming into the new area and just overall economic growth. Like, I do not want to buy a boutique hotel in a dying town because my hotel would be the next thing to go. And when you buy in appreciating areas, you're riding a wave that lifts you through small issues that you may face, like with your operations or potential contractor issues on your rehab. For example, in my very first boutique hotel deal, I went way over on the renovation budget because of COVID delays, like material shortages, bad contractor, you name it, I experienced it. But I bought at the beginning of COVID and real estate rose like crazy, and the market saw growth and demand and travel as well. So the property appraised higher than I expected, and I was able to overcome going over budget. So you want to invest in growing markets because your equity is going to grow higher and faster, plus you get that buffer on the mistakes that you may make. And not only that, but a growing market also leads to rising nightly rates and more travelers, both of which lead to you making more money. And number 2 on the market factors that I consider is the sources of tourism in that market, and the more the better. And when considering the sources of tourism, I generally rule out areas with only one source that drives demand. Places that rely heavily on business travel are a good example because during the pandemic and the years to follow, business travel dried up, and hotels that relied heavily on conferences and business trips and business events got hurt pretty badly. The one exception would be destination markets with really strong leisure tourism and great demand that's easily accessible to a large population center, like generally 1 to 2 hours outside of a large metro area. That would be my one exception for one source of tourism. And places that I like are national parks because those provide consistent demand and drive-to markets. Even when the economy is bad, people go to national parks because it's a cheap way to vacation and they can drive there. And over the last 3 years, national park visitation has been on the rise steadily. I also like strong markets outside of metropolitan areas. This would be places like Shenandoah in DC, or the Poconos outside of Philly in New York, or maybe Joshua Tree in Southern California, or Lake Tahoe, where I had 2 hotels that's close to Reno and Carson City and Sacramento and San Francisco. These are big examples, some of which have become oversaturated, but there are lots of examples of markets like that all over the country. Those ones I mentioned, I like them because they're all strong drive-to destinations that have really high annual tourist counts. And just for you guys to consider, the bigger the nearby metro area or the more metro areas in the vicinity, the better. Now, when you're considering a market, it's important to consider the saturation of that market. You don't want to go in a place with a bunch of competition and more listings that's going to make it hard for you to stand out. But what I really want to point out is that even in these oversaturated markets, it's usually not the case. What I've seen is that it's segments of the market that are oversaturated. For example, 3 to 4 bedroom cabins in the Smoky Mountain, you can imagine, right? Those have been bought up like crazy and are mostly all the same. So if you bought a 3 to 4 bedroom cabin in the Smoky Mountains, you'd be competing against thousands of other undifferentiated listings. But 1 bedroom cabins in that market that cater to couples do really well. I know some people investing in those that are crushing it right now because for a fraction of the price to purchase that you can get much higher revenue proportionally. And the same can be said for large listings in Panama City Beach. There are thousands and thousands of studio and one-bedroom condo units lining the beach, but there are only a couple hundred 4+ bedroom houses there. And in Panama City Beach is a big family destination, so these larger listings do really well. So when you hear that a market's oversaturated, really look deeper and you can find a good little niche. So when you are considering your market, know that with buying a boutique hotel that you're mainly going to have studio or one-bedroom units. So look at the number of listings of that size in the market that you're looking at to see what the competition landscape is. Now, these are some of the things that I consider when looking at a market before investing so that you can bring in some context into your own market selection decision. And the big thing for you to take action on is just that. Take action. Don't get analysis paralysis over your market. Decide on your niche, what you're looking for in a property and in what location or type of location, and then attack that and you'll get deals. And I wouldn't be doing my job of trying to give you guys the most value possible for free if I didn't offer you a boost to get started with this now. It's like those little blue arrows that Sonic runs over and propels them forward. My goal is to provide you better free content than other people's paid stuff. So in the description and the links below is a free mini course that I made to help you scale into boutique hotels. It's a step-by-step of the top of the funnel, and it's very like, look here and do this, and is everything that I use to find deals. It goes over how to find and how to underwrite deals and how you can start to fill the top of your acquisition funnel to get your first deal under contract. So go to the link in the description below and start to make it happen. Now, to maximize the performance of your hotel, you need to know that amenities are what draw people in, and you stand out by providing experience. People book based on the perceived experience they will have by staying in your place based on the amenities you offer. And the best part of this is you can afford to invest in amenities because you're spreading the cost over multiple units. Now, to choose the design that best suits your hotel and optimize the property from a design and appeal perspective, you have a couple of options. And this is how to maximize your performance by creating something marketable that stands out from the competition and gets more views and thus more bookings. First of all, I think your market gives you a left and a right bounds for your design and what you can pull off. For example, like a Palm Springs market is going to be more mid-century modern with bold, bright colors, like with some pinks thrown in. And the Rocky Mountains market is going to fit better to a more cabin-like feel with wood and darker color. Now, that's a generality, and if you do what everyone else is doing in that market, you're obviously like not going to stand out and not do well, but you can use that template and then riff off of that design palette to create something cool and unique that's still true to the market. So that's what I mean by left and right bounds. Or you can do something completely unique like this property. Like this one just screams unique experience. And by going completely different, you differentiate yourself and make your property marketable, meaning you have something truly unique that stands out and drives demand through your referrals and your reviews. So then your marketing is just gas on the fire. And the best way I can think to highlight the impact of this elevated design and amenities is to give the example of the hotel I'm working on right now. It's a bigger property with 130 rooms on 10 acres, so I have a lot to work with, but you can take the same strategies as apply them to a smaller property and just absolutely crush it. So in my new hotel, there are 8 different buildings, and we're doing a unique design on each building. So this works because each design palette is going to appeal to a slightly different guest avatar, all while being true to a common design thread that spans over the property and allows me to capture bookings from people with different preferences and create a really unique experience for multiple kinds of people, expanding my potential guest pool. And it also intrigues guests that stay at the property, right? Because they'll be impressed with one of the designs, like that's the intention anyway, and then they want to come back to stay another time to experience a different design on the next day. It gives them a taste and incentivizes them to come back for more. And I'm also investing heavily in the amenities, like over $500,000, like a pavilion with a big seating area, a fire pit and an outdoor kitchen, along with an outdoor pool bar, a pickleball court, putt-putt, more fire pits, a game room, an outdoor movie theater screen, and a fitness center. So this baby is gonna be loaded. And that's because I understand my guest avatar, and that is the key to this whole piece. So let's dig into that. So that key, understanding your avatar, unlocks the question of what you should renovate to and what quality and amenities you add to the hotel. You want to think about the guest that comes to that area, why they travel there, what they do when they're there, how old they are, what they value, and then build your guest profile based on that. And by understanding your ideal guest, you create what they like and then they book it. And then in your listings and in your marketing, you talk to those people. Like those are the things that short-term rental investors overlook, and how you establish your competitive advantage and be able to fill up all those rooms at your hotel. So with my hotel in the Smoky Mountains, right by the gate to Great Smoky Mountain National Park, it has an overarching avatar of people that travel there and distinct segments of guests. So the overarching avatar is those traveling for recreation. Those are, people taking vacations, going to the national park, taking hikes, picnics, riding horses, and maybe ATVs too. There are so many recreational things to do there, and the natural landscape invites people to come slow down and enjoy those natural amenities of the area. The Smoky Mountains, the waterfalls, great views, and amazing drives, like you just see it now, right? And then there are large segments of people within that group as well. And one of those is maybe retired people, like think boomers, coming to take a slow, relaxing vacation. And my hotel is on what they call the peaceful side of the Smokies, which is perfect, right? And then another one is families with multiple kids. And then a final one is couples getaways. So we have a design plan that fits each segment, and we planned our amenities to appeal to all of them as well. And with 10 acres and a bunch of different amenity options, all of those segments of people have rooms to sprawl out and to be able to enjoy the different amenities on the property and the natural amenities of the area with such close proximity to them. That is the level of detail that sets you apart from your competition and makes it clear for you, based on your guest avatar, which direction to take your hotel. And where your mind naturally wonders when you're getting into a new investment strategy is how you make sure that you'll be able to actually make money, right, in the long run, or exit the property if things get a little shaky. Though like many other things, you can overanalyze and be timid, or research enough to get comfortable with the risk and then act. And you probably know which one I chose, and I've successfully went full cycle on 4 of these deals. So I've seen how these exit plays out, and I want to get into that for you guys. And the good news is there are buyers out there, and that buyer's pool is getting larger, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. So let's dive in. So how it works depends on the purchase price. And under $1 million, you can appeal to a wider but less experienced buyer pool, and you're going to deal with headaches, a lot of questions, and not necessarily a certainty of close, because the buyers who are trying to buy properties in that range, like under $1 million, might be stretching and don't have enough experience or cash to be confident buyers. In this video, I want to help you be not those people. And then any big experienced investors with capital behind them don't typically invest in deals that small. So your best chance, in my opinion, is with a deal that is $1 million or more. And this is on the sale side after the renovation and after you've added the value. So that's not that hard to do, because you can buy for under $1 million from unsophisticated investors. They'll leave a lot of meat on the bone for you, and then push up the value above $1 million to increase the size of your buyer's pool and kind of solidify your exit strategy. And in this price range, you're going to get looks from more experienced investors with deeper pockets, and they're usually experienced professional buyers, which makes the transactions much easier on you, and you and your broker don't have to hold their hand. Like, they want the deal, they can afford the deal, and so they buy the deal. And the little story to highlight this, I sold both of my Panama City Beach deals on the market. And at first, we tried listing them separately, thinking that they'd fetch higher individual prices than if we grouped them together. But separately, they were too small for bigger investors and too big for smaller investors. So they didn't get a lot of offers. Then when we packaged them together and offered them as one, we got more attention, because now it was in the size range that a professional investor could buy with the team in place and operate remotely. Another reason I like slightly bigger deals, where you can get, economies of scale on the buy side, because when you add value and improve the property, you'll have more buyers who can buy that kind of property, because it's already an operating business, not something they have to do all the work for. Like, people don't typically buy $2, $3, $4 million properties to do all the work themselves. Now, how boutique hotels trade is based on their net operating income and the cap rate. So I talked in the last video that hotels are commercial properties, and their value is the NOI divided by the cap rate. So a property with $100,000 in NOI at a 10% cap rate is worth $1 million. So to maximize the value of your property and get the highest value at your exit, either a refinance or a sale, you focus on maximizing your NOI at the liquidity event. So in the 12 months leading up to that liquidity event, you want to increase the income as much as you can while controlling your operational expenses, which improves your NOI, which is just your, gross income minus your operating expenses. And that increases the value of your property. And if you have a well-running boutique hotel with a team in place that a new buyer can come in and operate with that team and not have to do everything themselves, then you will have buyers. And I would say, just for cap rate expectations, probably expect between 8 to 10% at your exit for a nice stabilized boutique hotel. And that can change higher or lower by the market, but that's a good range. And another very important consideration for your exit strategy is think about the growth and the popularity with boutique hotels and how that's really grown as an asset asset class over the last year or so. Like 2 years ago, I didn't know anyone else buying boutique hotels because no one really was that long ago. Now you fast forward another 3 to 5 years, you're gonna see a ton more STR investors scale up into the commercial space. So the buyer pool is gonna be, likely much bigger, which will create more demand and compress cap rates for you. People will be willing to pay more for boutique hotels. So underwrite conservatively now, and you'll see those numbers get beat big time years in the future when you actually go to sell. So there are buyers out there now for officially operated independent boutique hotels, and there'll be even more in the futures. Don't overanalyze the exit strategy where you might have a lack of data today, because growing demand is going to lead to a super profitable exit for you down the road. Like if you see it, if it's logical and the numbers make sense, other buyers will see the same. Now stay tuned for the next video, because we are diving deep into the nitty gritty now and how you can tactically transition into buying boutique hotels by renovating and operating these commercial deals.